Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 78th day of Russian invasion and 9th year of Russian Federation's war against Ukraine. I'm Andriy Shevchenko. On behalf of Ukraine Media Center to Forum, I'm greeting all journalists telling the world about our fight for freedom. And our next briefing, as traditionally, is by Oleksandr Motuzyanyk, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Mr. Motuzyanyk, you're welcome. Dear friends, welcome everybody, and I'd like to share with you as traditional information about the peculiarities of the military aggression of Russia against Ukraine, information as of noon today, 12th of May. The aggressor continues active military action in the eastern area of operations, firing for effect along the whole front combat line, and tries to fire deeper into our lines of defense. The highest activity of the occupiers, as it was before, is seen in Slobozhanщina and Donetsk directions. There is still a threat of missile strikes by the enemy, by seaborne cruise missiles from Black Sea against military and civilian targets in Ukraine. In Black Sea area of operations, occupiers carrying out actions to strengthen its military presence on Zmin or Snake Island. Also on the occupied territories of Ukraine, they have been exploiting terror tactics against civilians. Now briefly information by key directions. In Kharkiv area, Russian army units are rearranging and trying to prevent our troops from moving further towards the state border of Ukraine. To that end, the occupiers do not stop shelling our units with artillery in order to cause as much losses as possible in terms of personnel, weapons and military equipment. Around Slavyansk, in Slavyansk direction, units from the 1st Tank Army, 20th Army of the Western Military District, 29th, 35th, 36th Armies, as well as 68th Armed Corps of the Eastern Military District, they are rearranging their units to resume offensive operation towards Barvinkovo and Slavyansk. And in order to clarify the target, the enemy has done some reconnaissance using UAV in the area of Izum to Krasnopilya, 15 kilometers to northwest from Slavyansk. In Donetsk Oblast, occupant units, including some units of the so-called 1st and 2nd Armed Corps, as well as 8th and 58th Army of the Southern Military District, conduct active military action in Liman, Severodonetsk, Popasna, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Kurakhova, and Novopavlivka directions. Their goal is to take control over the town of Rubizhne and to take Liman, Severodonetsk, and Marinka. In Liman direction, the enemy has focused its main efforts on creating the base near Bilogorivka, 6 kilometers to the west from Lysychansk, and preparing offensive on Lysychansk. To that end, the enemy has been strengthening its offensive capacity of their troops. And towards Siversk, the enemy, in the area of Siversk, the enemy has been doing offensive towards the Landolina and Novoselivka. There was active combat action there. In Severodonetsk direction, the invaders have been running offensive action towards Kudryashivka, Severodonetsk. In Kurakhova direction, they run an offensive towards Oleksandrivka and Marinka. In Mariupol area, as previously, the enemies focus their efforts in blocking our units around the Azovstal steel factory. Russians do not stop aviation strikes, air strikes, including using Tu-22 M3 airplanes, and they also do artillery shelling of the city. In Zaporizhia direction, the enemy maintains positions previously taken and shells our units almost along the whole front line, including use of heavy artillery and multiple launch rocket systems. In southern Bugentavria direction, the aggressor using 8th Army, 49th Army and 22nd Armed Corps and in some directions they have been trying to improve their tactical situation. The enemy has been strengthening its firing system, improving its fortifications of their positions, replenishing reserves of weapons, equipment, armor, and fuel and lubricants. In Tavria direction, Russian troops ran some demonstrations in order to keep Ukrainian troops in place, as well as they have been improving their engineering positions, replenishing armor and equipment. In Volyn, Polisia, and Siversk directions, certain units of Belarusian armed forces, up to 7 battalions, continue their assignments to strengthen Belarus-Ukraine border and Brest and Homel Oblast. There is still a threat of rocket and air strikes from the territory of Belarus against facilities in Ukraine. At checkpoints and in parts of Bryansk and Kursk oblasts of Russia neighboring the border, there are still strengthened units of FSB's border guards as well as Russian army. Also, the aggressor has fired with artillery against our troops in districts near border around Karpovich and Kyiv in Chernihiv Oblast. In Bessarabia direction, there have been no significant changes in the situation. Situation there remains quite tense. Currently, military units of that so-called Transnistria and operational units of Russian troops remain in full high alert. In Black Sea and Sea of Azov areas of operations, ships of Russia's Black Sea fleet in Black Sea and Sea of Azov continue implementing assignments to isolate the combat area, doing reconnaissance, and try to provide fire support for their troops in the coastal area. Also, the enemy, as already mentioned, has been trying to increase its military presence on Zmin or Snake Island. Their goal is to block Ukraine's marine communications. Also, the enemy has been strengthening its air defense system in the western coast of Crimean Peninsula, in particular around the village of Chernomorska on Tarkhankut. There has been an S-300 unit deployed with 3 command points. A couple of words about illegal activities of Russian occupiers. The Russian troops continue, unfortunately, they continue to purposely be destroying civilian infrastructure in Ukraine by rocket strikes, air strikes, and artillery shelling towards residential quarters and infrastructural facilities in Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, and Odessa Oblasts, as well as towns and villages in Sumy Oblast near the border. Russian so-called military civil administrations are making steps to prepare integration of occupied territories into Russian Federation, in particular by changing their administrative territorial structure and adaptation of legal banking and border control system to Russian legislation. Also, they prepare regulations to start issuing Russian passports. Finally, I will tell you that in the meantime, in Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, Ukrainian troops during the day have repelled 9 attacks of the enemy, destroyed 8 tanks, 6 armored fighting vehicles, 5 cars and trucks, and 1 anti-aircraft gun of the enemy. And air defense, our air defense has downed 4 Orlan 10 UAVs of the enemy. I have also to say that the enemy incurs losses in other areas. The information is always updated and it keeps increasing. The total losses, according to the information from the General Staff on this slide, that's basically it. Thank you for attention. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. Any questions? Maria Hanchar from Ukrinform. My first question is, can you inform how much time for armed forces of Ukraine to start using those heavy weapons which are now arriving to Ukraine, and how long does it take for those weapons to get from the border to our armed units? some types of weapons and equipment provided by our partners, our allies, have already been used in an active way at the front. Information about that has already been published. But how much weapons? It depends on the weapons, type of weapons. The heavier it is, sometimes it takes more time, certain logistical routes in particular to mask that equipment and so on. I cannot quote any particular times. For some types it takes 1 week, for some of them it takes 3 days, you have to understand. Second question, maybe.
In chief of Czech magazine What Was in the Navigation.
Give us one moment for the interpretation. Okay.
I would like to ask, recently the Russian media claims that their soldiers occupying Snake Island repelled heavy Ukraine attacks and destroyed many Ukraine attackers and helicopters. Could you please comment about Ukraine's success attacking the Snake Island? Thank you.
I think that all leading media worldwide have to finally understand that, you know, to believe Russian propaganda means to have no respect for yourself, not for global journalism. Believe me, whatever they are saying, you have to immediately filter it. Of course, the Ukrainian army also incurs some losses because very intense combat action. But those losses are several times lower than losses incurred by Russian occupants. Also, the truth is with us, so we are defending our land. For us, this is a war for truth. About the Snake Islands, Min Island, this information was already published, you saw it. There are certain successes there, certain successes of the Ukrainian army, including destroying Russian ships and their personnel. Maria Hanchar, I have one more question. Could you please inform us whether we know anything about Russia's response about exchange of wounded soldiers in Azovstal for their prisoners of war? That's not part of my competence. It's about the coordination staff, coordination headquarters created in Ukraine. I am not authorized to communicate that information, and also I don't even have that information. Thank you. Thank you, Oleksandr Motuzyanyk, spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Thank you, everybody. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. This was our last briefing. You're welcome to monitor our announcements and stand with Ukraine.